Hello, Bob.
Hello, Waylon.
And hello, everyone else.
Hello, everyone.
So we're at Elephant HQ in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, wonderful.
And when did you get here?
I got to Boulder a couple of days ago, I think on Tuesday night. I'm here for the Translation and Transmission Conference of the Zata Foundation.
Nice.
And I'm kind of the old guard among all the translators. I'm like an ancient fossil or something.
Yeah.
So I'm not too active, so I could play hooky and come see the elephant. And my main thing nowadays is to promote His Holiness's life story that we have done at Tibet House US in New York City.
And this is brand new.
It's brand new, and it's been out for a few months, but it's virtually brand new because nowadays, we're the publisher. So if people buy it, they're helping preserve Tibetan culture.
Oh, it's Tibet House. So tell us.
Yeah, and we have Hay House is our distributor.
Hay House is wonderful.
But they in a very pro bono, not quite pro bono, but very generous deal.
So what is Tibet House? You've been involved with them for many, many years, right?
Yeah, for 30 years now. We're in our 30th year, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama is the founder patron of Tibet House, and it's officially known as the HH, the Dalai Lama's Cultural Center in America.
Right.
I know there are many Dharma centers and other things. There are many other organizations that help His Holiness, but this is his cultural center.
There's many Buddhist centers everywhere, but this is his...
Cultural,
Tibet House is his...
And its job is preserving Tibetan culture. It isn't a Dharma center, although we do have monks and lamas and people giving talks, and I give talks, and if you visit, you can give a talk. And we have like a little museum. We have an archive of photos of old Tibet. Wow. We don't agitate politically and go and shout or anything. We can do that personally, but as an institution, we're just preserving the culture, no matter what,
So explain to people here. I think most people know about it if we think about it, but what is the urgency of preserving Tibetan culture?
Yeah, the urgency is that the Chinese never did own Tibet. It was always an independent country. Both the Mongolian Empire, which conquered China in a rather nasty manner, but then they managed not so badly once they lived there, and the Manchu Empire were also not Chinese and conquered China and other places, Mongolia and so on. So they were protectorates of those two empires, non-Chinese empires, but they were never occupied and they were never colonized by China, and actually they can't be colonized because they're 3 miles high, 3 times higher than Boulder.
They were protected by this ring of obviously the Himalayan mountains,
and that's why it was it's a country bigger than the whole U.S. west of the Mississippi. We have a wonderful visitor, a wonderful bird came to.
We have to get this bird out safely. We're going to pause. Bob, you can keep talking if you like.
All right,
because we can't pause. So, oh boy.
We're having a nice
bird. Okay, little birdie.
Maybe we should just let it, or is it dangerous to let it hang out?
Well, I just don't want it to fly into the window. This is classic. This is like the Bernie Sanders moment. But
that's great. I thought they were going to hear about the Dalai Lama. Now he's sitting on top of the elephant's head.
God.
He or she.
Okay.
So I think slowly we'll... So anyway...
Do you mind grabbing my phone? So we have a little bird sitting atop this paper mache elephant we have. Yeah, thank you.
And so, the Chinese said that they always owned Tibet. They tried to say that from the beginning. Right. It's an internal matter, and don't mess with it. And then they killed 1 million people. They're doing ethnocide, I call it, ethnic cleansing, ethnocide. They're trying to colonize. Because the people in Beijing who don't have to live at that altitude, they send other people to go there, and then they have a tourist thing within China, and then they can make money there. But actually, they get sick if they try to live there. Women can't gestate babies in the womb with only 47% of their sea level oxygen, and so that's why it never was colonized or lived in by China.
There was, when the Chinese took over, there was raping, there was pillaging,
terrible,
looting,
and because they're very unhappy. The ones who actually have to go there although they're making money, they're unhappy, or mining or something, or collecting water or damming rivers. They're unhappy because they can't live comfortably at that altitude. No one can. We can go climbing a mountain for a while, but to live there year round, men get heart disease, what they call CMS, chronic mountain sickness. And that's why it was an empty country the size of the whole U.S. west of the Mississippi. Wow. Huge plateau. And all the rivers of Asia go from there, and there are only 6 million people there. And so their culture, the Tibetan culture, is distinctive, although they share a little bit different type of Buddhism, but they share Buddhism with the Chinese, but it's a different type. And therefore, the existence of Tibetan culture, language, and the people's even racial characteristics, some of them, most of them, are different from Chinese. So they have to get rid of that, and they want to synthesize them. They want them only to speak Chinese. They want to say they always were Chinese.
And this image on the cover of your book, this beautiful image, this would be illegal in Tibet.
That would be illegal. I would be, if I was a Tibetan with this image, I would be arrested for this and sent for re-education.
So that's the extent of the lack of freedom
that's
Tibetans have in Tibet now.
It's intense. No, it really is bad. I do not blame the current president of China.
Okay.
I believe, I just want to say it right off, or the Chinese people, hundreds of millions of whom are in love with Tibet and the Dalai Lama and Buddhism underground.
Right.
And within their Buddhist interest, they love Tibet, and it's because it brings new elements of Buddhism that they didn't have in China. They didn't have Tantra much in China. You know?
Right.
They had Pure Land and they had Zen, Chan, but they didn't have Tantra.
Right, China used to be Buddhist before Mao, really.
Well, mostly it's 700-800 million people,
or a lot of Buddhism,
and maybe you could say that they were very tolerant. They were Buddhist at their funeral. And Buddhists, if they wanted to go be a monk and try to meditate to enlightenment, they were Taoist at birth and so forth, and at marriage, and then they were Confucian at the office, you could say.
Sounds like
and they had called Harmony of Three Teachings, developed in the Ming Dynasty. And so they were not like us, like killing somebody else for a different religion in the old days. And then they tolerated Christianity and Islam, and they have that too.
Wow.
And in the old days, then it became ideologically Marxist and freaked out materialists, about all religions for some time. And then they're underground in communism now. Many even communist officials secretly have a lama that they study with. They have the bird is just hanging down.
All right, he made it.
He took off. I knew he would.
That was great.
And so China will be a beacon for the planet when they finally relax a little bit, the Communist Party, and they decide to be one of the parties in a multi-party system. And I personally believe, and His Holiness does, that the current president wants to do that sort of more liberalizing, democratizing thing gradually and carefully. But the old power structure of the sort of frightened 20th century military industrial oriented Marxist Russian trained engineers types, anti-spiritual types like Jiang Zemin, who tortured and tormented almost poor Falun Gong people, and sold their organs right and left. That was under his time. And Hu Jintao, that president, was only president because he was famous from Deng's time, from the 80s, of being anti-Tibetan and very fierce. He was party boss in Lhasa. But although he never lived there because he couldn't take the altitude, he would only go for 2 or 3 days. But he was technically the official in charge of controlling Tibet, and in the late 80s, and he was very fierce and vicious with suppressing them at that time.
And it's still pretty intense.
Hu Jintao?
No, just generally China's relationship to Tibet.
No, I know, because that policy of Hu Jintao is still in force.
Right.
It hasn't been changed. Xi Jinping has been arresting people in these cliques for corruption, who are the old guard, they want to just crush everybody down type of people.
I mean, but
he hasn't unseated them all,
Right.
It's like we have all these people in prison. Obama would have liked to let a lot of them out. He commuted thousands. He went and actually visited the prison himself, the first president ever did.
Right.
But he wasn't able to just go back to his same policy about the drug war completely. He wasn't able to go about reviewing all the sentencings in Eric Holder, They didn't have time, and they were obstructed by the Congress, as we know. And also, he got a little wimpy, and he got addicted to golf. Like we're watching him now with his golf game, smiling away while we're all suffering.
Oh boy, it's intense.
But I love the guy. Don't get me wrong.
Well, speaking of right now, it's interesting to see China beginning to take leadership with the environmental climate change.
They are
investment in green energy.
Yes, they're going to do that. They really are. I think I really like Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping's father loved the Dalai Lama. They met in the 50s when Dalai Lama was 19. And Xi Jinping was born 1 year before, and we have in the book, and this is a comic book, a giant comic book.
So this is a graphic novel, which is pretty gorgeous.
And the Dalai Lama, when Xi Jinping gets to be president, he's thinking let's see, where is that? He's thinking like...
There's Obama.
Yeah, there's Obama. There's an annoying Hu Jintao. But then when he gets to be... And then, that's before. So when Xi Jinping... yeah, they're all in there, all these people.
Wow.
And then they send in the stormtroopers, the Chinese. And then Xi Jinping becomes... Obama gets elected and Xi Jinping becomes president at the same time.
Okay.
And then the Dalai Lama remembers... Oh, it's right here. Yeah, I knew it was here. The Dalai Lama remembers that he was friends with the father. Where is this?
Desmond Tutu. This is a beautiful, beautiful...
And these are the poor Tibetans. Oh, here it is. Wow. So the Dalai Lama remembers... you can see it's showing this page, the left one.
So, yeah.
And that's Xi Jinping. And Dalai Lama remembers that he was friends of the father when he was 19. He was 19. Xi Jinping was 1 year old.
So this is... Say his name again, Xi Jinping?
Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
And he was 1 year old, and then he wonders, maybe the dad brought the 1 year old eldest son, his first son, and got a blessing from me secretly because he was a communist, right? He shouldn't be doing that.
Right.
But maybe he did, and he doesn't remember that at all, but he's thinking maybe that happened, and he's hoping. And now this lady, when Xi Jinping first got in 2012-13, Jinwei, she said, "This is stupid. This harsh policy on Tibetans. Let's be nice. Let's support their culture. Let's let Buddhism flourish there. Let them be happy. Have their lamas, whatever. Let's take Dalai Lama at his word. He wants to be a happy part of China, not an oppressed part of China.
Devil, as they call him.
Genuine autonomy,
Yeah.
And
don't they call him the devil and all that?
Yeah, and stop that." And let him come back if he wants and travel and see his people.
Wow.
She said, and she has a high position in Beijing in the leadership school.
Wow.
So it was obviously authorized to say that and didn't lose her job afterwards.
Wow.
And then this guy who came from the old policy and is still maintaining the old policy, Xu Weichun, a very unfortunate guy, sad guy, bad guy, Blue Meanie. There's another one, Blue Meanie. And he comes up and shouts, no, we have to cut off the head of the snake. We can't do that. We can't. The Tibetans we don't believe the Dalai Lama. They want independence, blah, blah, blah. He's saying that. So then the question mark, which way is Xi Jinping going to go?
Wow. But it would be heartbreakingly wonderful to see the Dalai Lama.
In my other book, previously, Why the Dalai Lama Matters, I said whoever became friendly with Dalai Lama as leader of China would get his own Nobel Peace Prize.
Wow. So this is just a stunningly beautiful book.
That's the Dalai Lama with his spiritual things at the Ayers Rock in Australia, actually, where he gave a wonderful teaching on the most deepest spiritual tantric teachings. And but this is also the very grim moment for Tibet. Is the page before that, because this is the end of this is his 80th birthday when we were supposed to finish this book. We're a year or two late, but we did it. And this is all the bad things that are happening now. And we don't even have the Trump election here because it hadn't happened yet. But it's around that time, And and the oracle is telling him about the elephant that's India, the eagle is America, the bear is Russia, the dragon is China. And he's giving prophetic things about this is going to be a really hard time in the next few years.
Wow.
And there's different things that happen here.
Is this an immolation?
No. That's just. That's the East. That's the horrible Middle East stuff, and ISIS and the terrible Syria. That's Syria.
Wow.
Because Dalai Lama is sensitive to the whole planet, not only the Tibetans. He's the planet's Dalai Lama. He's the first one to become like that. So his feelers, his sensitivity, his altruistic empathy is feeling other things, and he takes an interest in that. And he wants to inspire people to do better.
Well, so what was your inspiration behind this book being a graphic novel?
Well, we wanted the new millennials and the new generation to read it, and also some of the old people we noticed who are longtime Tibetan people and have had a chance to read 2 Dalai Lama autobiographies. They don't really remember what's happening. They get confused and gee, what's he doing? Oh yeah, he's a great spiritual teacher, but what's the story with Tibet? Oh, it's a lost cause.
Right.
So they also like that.
Right.
And actually, I've had some of these more old timers write me who've read this now. And they say, when I read it in just words in the Dalai Lama's thing about his life, I got tired of it, pages, people don't like to read now, they watch videos.
Well,
and now this held my interest all the way through the whole struggle because the pictures. Yeah. And we don't shrink from showing the Chinese invasion and the killing of the people, and so that it gives meaning to the Dalai Lamas being nonviolent, that they're being violated. And yet he's not reacting with hatred and anger and so forth. That's really critical and important. And also, the other reason we did it like this even though he has some autobiographies and verbal autobiographies out there, is he wouldn't show his own spiritual attainments and achievements, his prayers, his visions, you know, and show himself in a heroic light. He doesn't like to do that. He just says, well, I went and had breakfast with Mao, and he was like this, or I saw Jimmy Carter, and he said that. You know, he doesn't kind of show that he's really doing it. But like here, for example, this is a beautiful page where the Dalai Lama, his teacher of the Shantideva teaching about altruistic omniscience and altruistic kindness and how the source of all happiness is altruism, was a very humble man who was this one called Kunu Lama Rinpoche. He was not one of the high hierarchical lamas at all. And he was considered an incarnation kind of, but he was just humble. He was an Indian citizen actually because he was born in Ladakh. But he did study in Tibet for 35 years, and he got from a Nyingma teacher called Patu Rinpoche, this one, he received a special precept lineage of Shantideva, the self over other over self, you know, thing, that there's great teaching of Shantideva. And that's the root.
Well, explain that teaching, though, because it's wonderful.
Right? Well, that's the beautiful teaching where Shantideva explains how if you want to be happy, or as the Dalai Lama says, if you want to be a wise, selfish person, in other words, become happy, which a selfish person wants, then be altruistic.
We were just looking at that.
Be compassionate. And if you want to be unhappy, then be self-centered. And so there's this great teaching of exchange of self-preoccupation for other preoccupation.
Can I show this?
Please show that wonderful
So we were just looking at an old elephant toe bag. These are organic cotton.
They have a great bag.
If you want to be unhappy, think only of yourself. I don't want to block your face. And if you want to be happy, think first of others.
Yeah, I have to buy one of these.
You can obviously have it. You can have one.
And we like to sell them at Tibet House if you market these.
Of course.
You know, we have a shop in New York. We would like to do it.
Happy to.
That's a beautiful one. And anyway, it's a surprising thing, but if you think about it, you'll realize that's the case. You know, when you say you went to a concert, you went to the Elephant, you had an event, and they said, how was it? And you say, I was blown away. Well, what is it that was blown away? Now, you don't mean you were dead, that you were blown away. What you mean is that your normal mind, of a habitual America indoctrinated mind of thinking, what am I getting out of it? What is in it for me? What am I doing? Is this the best thing? Am I in the best seat? Am I getting to, is this the best concert? Is that the thing? And all of that is dissatisfaction because you're never getting the best.
It's ego.
Never. It's ego. It's not a matter of ego. Ego's okay. Everybody has an ego. It's just a pronoun. But what it is it's egocentrism. It's egotism where you're focused, ego preoccupation, where you're focused on yourself, measuring what you've got, and it's never enough. As we can see, billionaires even are not satisfied. They want a second billion. They want to be president. They want something else, more. And so they want more wives, more trophies, whatever it is. They're never happy. But when you're blown away, since for a moment you get carried away in a rapture of the concert or the event or of the friendship or something, you weep with joy, and you forget about what you don't have. When that happiness ends, is at the end of the concert, do you think, oh, was that the greatest Grateful Dead concert ever? Was that the best Beatles? Is this the best thing? Is that the best partner I had in my lovemaking? And then immediately you start feeling dissatisfied.
But for a moment,
when you're blown away is when you're no longer thinking about yourself.
You're just present.
And you're like that. You're just present. And when you're present, then other people become fascinated. And then you notice, gee, she wants to be happy. He wants to be happy. And then you start thinking about what makes them happy. And then you begin to, it's like Christmas. You take a present to the child and you see the joy of the child. And your joy is their joy. And that you live that way, and that's being a wise, selfish. That's the Shantideva teaching. By the way, at that page of the book, he's receiving that, and that's his whole thing where Dalai Lama is known worldwide, is the common human religion of kindness is my religion. Being kind is where you are enlightened. You don't have to be enlightened, just be kind, and in that moment of kindness, you're being enlightened and you feel happy. So that's the thing.
That's beautiful right there.
And bit by bit, then that builds up. You get more and more into it, and you're more
Say that again.
Well,
you don't have to be enlightened.
Yeah, you don't have to rush off and go and get all uptight and say, I've got to get enlightened, and now I'm not enlightened enough. That's good. You can do that, and if you're properly instructed, you realize, well, one of the things you do is you don't worry about how enlightened you are. You try to understand the nature of the world. You try to understand reality. You look into yourself to understand your nature, and then when you really do that and become transparent to yourself, of course, you begin to see that you're interconnected with other people. If you avoid the trap, what I call the the meditation trap, the spiritual trap, which is, I don't mean I'm against meditation, you have to meditate.
Yeah.
But the trap is, sometimes you meditate, and if you do it really well, you develop a real skill at it, and you spend time at it, you can have an experience where sort of you disappear and the world does. Mm-hmm. You have like a blow-away experience where nothing's there. Mm-hmm. And so, but it seems to be the whole cosmos is just a vast space or something. And then if you think that's ultimate reality, and going back to those other places, that's some horrible thing, that becomes dualistic. Mm-hmm. And then you become addicted to that reality, or you make the guru mistake where you think, oh, now I'm enlightened because I was once blown away. And then when you're back here in the world, you start behaving badly because you think you're better than other people because you were blown away once, and you're going to go back there when you die. You think that was emptiness, but that's not emptiness. Remember, emptiness is form. Form is emptiness. Right now, we're in emptiness. This is emptiness. We're able to relate to each other, be friendly with each other because it's emptiness. Because there's no non-empty thing that's isolated from anything else. That's what emptiness means. And so emptiness means relativity, in other words. Relationality.
So emptiness is not nihilism.
No, it's absolutely not. Emptiness is the immediacy of relativity. And that's why wisdom becomes compassion. Because once you're stuck in the world with everybody, and yet you know it's kind of magical because if you drill down at any particular point, it'll all disappear. So it's like magic. It's like a magic show in a way, and it has an illusory quality, but it's still real insofar as anybody's suffering, you or anybody else. So then, but the fact that it's sort of magical gives you more power to try to shift it away from suffering into happiness and bliss.
You can dance with reality.
Yes, and you can do it. And you have to when you realize there's no escape except being happy in the situation, in love. And of course, the experience of being blown away in emptiness is very important because it helps you become free of the idea of I'm an isolated me and that's an isolated situation and it's really, that's the way it has to just be. And some unsatisfactory way is just the way it is. I have to resign myself to that. The blow away thing, it makes you not resign to it. You realize it's very transformative. It's always changing. It can be made infinitely better. And that's what Buddha does. Buddha creates Buddha land, It creates a Buddhaverse, a mandala. That's what mandala means. Mandala is the seed space of the palace of liberated, loving people, like happy people.
That's sort of a mandala there.
Yeah, that's like a mandala. But we have
I'm sure there's something nice.
We have His Holiness making mandala in 1970.
People have seen the sand mandalas that the Tibetan monks will make, and then kind of sweep it all aside.
Here's His Holiness's relationship to the Kala Chakra. Kala Chakra for world peace. That's the famous Kala Chakra mandala you can see. Yeah. And there's His Holiness getting kind of authorized by the deity, by the spirits, the angels, especially the Dakinis.
It's just beautiful.
Especially Mrs. Kala Chakra, I'll show you. Here he's having a dream.
Yeah, there's a sand mandala.
Here they're making a mandala of the monks. This is 1971 in where I'm there with I'm actually in the picture here. Huh. Back of my head is over here somewhere. Yeah. Anyway, the Mrs. Kala Chakra, her name is Vishvamata, the mother of everyone. Vishvamata. She's a female Buddha. There, you see her face, but she has several faces behind her main face.
Right.
And she's over there, and Dalai Lama's dreaming.
Right here.
Yeah, because usually Dalai Lamas or Pension Lamas, they give Kala Chakra initiation once or twice in a lifetime, but mass initiation. But she was saying, just go for broke. Give as much Kala Chakra as you like, Wheel of Time. Because Kala Chakra has this very positive, it's like the omega point of Teilhard de Chardin. It revises history to say we're heading toward a Buddha land situation. It isn't just all going down to the drain,
So in more layman's terms, what does all that mean?
Well, that means that history is under the positive shaping and input of enlightened beings. Okay. And they are more powerful than the demonic beings that also are around. And they are creating an environment in time. Kala Chakra means time machine. Right. An environment in time where we are optimized in our opportunity to achieve freedom from egotism and suffering and anger and hatred and greed and jealousy and pride and all of those things.
It's very exciting.
And ignorance, it is.
Yeah.
And in other words, we have the default thing, I was just saying, in our sort of Anglo-Abrahamic culture, we have the default idea inflicted on us. It isn't essential to either Moses or Jesus or anybody, or even Yahweh for that matter, or Yah, as it's the Jews don't ever pronounce any vowels, which they're hip. They're hip about it. Whatever, you can't really say it with no vowel, and that's important because you can't dominate it by saying the name of the ineffable, vast compassion of the universe.
Wow.
And however you are visualizing it in your own way, you can't get so attached to it. It's your limitation, your visualization. So I'm saying that the default, therefore, by these authoritarian societies in the West, of you're going to go to hell, if you let it all hang out, something bad is going to happen. You better not enjoy sex much. Just have some kids through a sheet,
Right.
And don't have a good time. That's dangerous, and Satan will get you. So our default position is that reality is kind of bad, and we're sort of Jesus is helping us make a good place out of it, or some rabbi, or some mullah, and God is going to save us from it.
Right.
But the default position, more deeply by Christian mystics, Muslim mystics, Jewish mystics, and by the Eastern people more broadly, because they also have that authoritarian, like terrorizing the population thing by the rulers, but there's this vision that the default reality is good. Reality is blissful. The blissful, loving energy of reality is more powerful than the negative, selfish, harmful, and tormenting energy. So the default is it's all good.
Right.
So if you sort of lose control, you let go and float downstream, it'll be all right. And that's hard for us because we're indoctrinated that if you let it all go, float downstream, you'll go over the fall and be crushed under a rock.
Yeah, there's a big
So
debate.
we're guarded and boundaried, and we're freaked out, and we're frightened, you see.
There's a debate in Western culture, are we good or bad, fundamentally?
Yeah.
And Buddhism would say we're fundamentally basic goodness, kind of.
All beings are good, basically. Yeah. We can behave really badly if we don't know that.
And but if we can afford to relax and come back, if we're present, blown, our minds are blown.
Yeah, if we realize what Buddha's great realization, people wrongly think, because first noble truth is truth of suffering, people wrongly think that Buddha's discovery was suffering, but that's silly. Any idiot can discover suffering, just stub your toe, But Buddha discovered bliss. He discovered that reality is made of bliss. That bliss is the strong force of the universe. That's
but the Four Noble Truths with suffering, he discovered it's okay to acknowledge it, and then there's a path out of it.
No, that's because he discovered that there's a much greater bliss than a small bliss when you're all locked up and you just have a little ice cream here or a little fudge there or a little something, and you think that's all you're living for because basically you can't be really happy. If you discover that you are bliss and others are bliss, you're not even afraid of death, you're not even afraid of anything. And then you really open your sensitivity and you find the inner bliss in your heart and you share that with other people. That was his discovery. Then once he had discovered that, he said, when you're living in this locked away way, this isolated psycho way where you think you're separate from everything, then that ignorance is going to cause you, that's the cause of your not enjoying that you're actually bliss. Remember, when he realized that, he saw everybody else as bliss. He saw them as made of bliss, even they were looking like this. And then he said, that's your ignorance, that you don't know your own nature. Your nature is bliss. And that everything is, so that's why that's the first step, is you acknowledge that short-term bliss, it's like the big bliss is there, the little bliss is like, okay, it actually is an aspect of the big bliss, but I mustn't be addicted to just the little one and be satisfied with it disappearing, it being permanent. So
what we have here is breaking news, which has been around for a while, which is everything's fundamentally okay.
Yes, that's key. That's a big breaking news in the West. That's the popularity of Buddha worldwide. That's the popularity of the Dharma here. That's the popularity of even yoga. You go stretch, and listen, that tension in the back of your knee, in the lower back, that rigid thing that's you think it's holding you up, your posture, the rigid posture, that actually is constricting you, and you're going to get arthritis, and you're going to have bad sex. You're not going to be able to dance nicely, and you're not going to be relaxed. And so, it's a little painful to stretch it, but and don't overdo it. You hurt yourself, and it'll get cramped more. But gradually open up, then the energy can flow in your system, and you'll be healthier and happier. Because naturally, you're a human being. Humans are really capable of a lot of bliss. The human brain, by those neuroscientists, they announced we only use 8% of it. We don't need the rest of it.
It's like that movie Limitless. Did you ever see that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. But, they make it like it's the guy who goes limitless has something horrible happen because that's part of our culture.
And there's a side effect.
Yeah. So the point is...
we don't need that. We can meditate.
Yes.
So I have a question.
We don't need it, but it's not... If it's used pedagogically in the right way, the entheogenic substances, the holy substances in so many indigenous cultures, they are very helpful. Right. But you can't become addicted to them because they show you your dark side and they frighten people, So, if you break through a good trip, you can go through a bad one. So they're not addictive, actually.
Right.
But they make people clear, and then they realize, then they go and get it naturally. Those are the ones who successfully used it. The ones who become addicted don't ever become addicted to entheogenics. They shift and they get addicted to uppers and downers. Because you can't get addicted to things that are showing you yourself. Right. And shattering your normal concepts about yourself.
But that's sort of an obstacle, and that's beautiful. So I have a question on behalf of one of my colleagues. She's young, and she's tried meditation like everyone in Boulder has to legally.
Yes.
But it's not addictive for her. It's not something she wants to do. So how do you regard meditation? They talk about discipline as joy.
It's very essential meditation, but the way it was sold here early on as a panacea is not a good way to do it, actually.
Right.
And if like the Sharon and people like that tell stories about how they went to such and such a Goenka and such a great teacher, and they said, I want to meditate. And the guy said, well, Jack Engler tells that story. He says, well, how's your stomach? Are you having diarrhea?
Yeah.
And in other words, meditation is a crucial educational tool. Mm-hmm. If you have learned something, because wisdom is what liberates you from suffering.
Right.
The opposite of ignorance or misknowing, delusion.
Right.
Wisdom. Then there are 3 levels of wisdom. Wisdom born of learning, wisdom born of critical reflection, thinking conceptually, critical.
Contemplation.
Yeah, critically thinking. But contemplation that uses thinking, like Descartes' meditation.
Intelligence.
Looking into things, examining. Getting rid of nonsense and unlearning also dumb dogmas.
Letting go of
and
prejudice.
Then finally, when you have the wisdom of those 2 levels, you can get wisdom through meditating one-pointedly. Mm. It's like the Zen guy who gets a mountain of doubt, and then they're one-pointed on that, and then the doubt will explode.
Wow.
But if you don't get the mountain of doubt by thinking critically and unlearning all of your ingrained ideas, indoctrinated ideas, then your meditation will be boring, and you'll just be stuck with your ignorant mind. And therefore we have seen already in American Buddhism and Hinduism and Taoism and mystical things, people who were adept meditators but didn't really learn much, and after 20 years of it they jumped up and they said, Eureka, I'm the greatest. I'm greater than you. Excuse me, that was the original egotism.
Right.
And then they're gurus because they meditated. And they have not behaved well. We've seen a few of them. Not they shouldn't throw them all out.
Yeah.
We've seen a couple of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the point is, wisdom born of learning, meditation. Learning means being practical and realistic and looking into yourself and seeing where you're happy and where not. Like that thing about being wise, selfish. You begin to learn that when you're always thinking about what you're getting out of something, it's never enough and you're always dissatisfied with it. Mm-hmm. And then thinking, how can I be more altruistic? How can I be more aware of others? And then beginning to have a happier life, actually.
So what should I tell her in terms of, should she, or anyone
Well,
watching?
she's here. You have here Shambhala publications,
you
have wisdom publications, you have the Boulder bookstore, you have good teachers here.
Sounds true.
Naropa, sounds true, Naropa, and Elephant.
Yoga journals.
And learn stuff.
Yeah.
And, meditate now and then. If it bores you, don't meditate. But then by learning, you think about what to meditate on. Uh-huh. And the basic thing the point about meditation is you can understand intellectually without too much difficulty that you are a relative being. When you understand that you're a relative being, you then can realize that, well, when I lose my temper, I don't feel relative. I want to go out and I just want to break down everything.
You feel solid.
Yeah, because you get very solid.
So
when I'm obsessed with a passion, I get very solid.
What does relative being mean?
Relative means that there's always another perspective. You can well, I'm right.
Right.
You're wrong.
Right.
But wait a minute. From some perspective, you have some right.
I see.
And somebody else has another
thing. So you can relax a little.
Yeah, it's like...
Sense of humor.
Yeah. But you find we are wired in our gut level, which we can tell when we're gripped by strong emotions, to think there's something absolute inside and we're really different from other things. Like we're different from that animal we want because we want to eat it.
Right.
We don't want to think that's a former fellow classmate of mine who got reborn as a sheep.
Right.
I'm now eating Joe, whatever, my opponent in the lacrosse match, We don't want to think that.
Right.
So, like other animals, we have an self-absolutized identity habit, that there's an identity in there that's disconnected from everything, that's the real us that never changes.
Right.
So we learn we can learn intellectually that that's silly. If it's yours, that means it relates to you. If it's relating to you, since you're everything you can find about yourself is a changing relational process, then that must change it to stay related. If there's anything anywhere that's not relative to anything else, because it never changes, it's not touched by anything, it's irrelevant to the relative you. So you can quickly understand that. That's what emptiness means. Even God, there are gods. Buddhists are not atheists, actually. There are plenty of gods, but no one of them is absolute.
Right.
If any god was absolute, they couldn't be involved with the world. Because that being involved means you're relative. Right?
They're gods in a different sense.
Yeah.
They're not worshipped necessarily.
Well, they can be.
Well, there's respect.
Be nice to them, but they can't save you because they're relational. They have no absolute power.
They're not
They
separate.
didn't create you. They're not absolute.
Right.
And you're not absolute.
Right.
But then you learn that you have a self-absolute in there that you habitually feel. Like at the base of, when you look at a photo of yourself 20 years ago at a picnic, if you get back to the memory of it through the photo, you sort of feel, when you get back to it, it's when click, you feel, oh, my same identity was there as my same identity is here. And everything about you has changed. And all the circumstances around you have changed. But you feel there's one thing that's the same, and that's sort of the ultimate register of my visual field, the thinker of my thoughts. It's just the same me. Of course, that's an illusion, totally. But you have that. So then you intellectually and critically and scientifically have analyzed that there's no such fixed essence of you. You're empty of it. Your gut feeling is that you still feel it's there, and which comes out in strong emotion. You can act all pious and everything, but then you get pissed off or you're really greedy and you go for it. And then meditation is where you press those two together. The meditation takes that I'm a relational being, and it's sort of I'm empty, and it pushes it. The way it pushes it together is it accepts the challenge from the Buddha and the great teachers, and it looks to find that fixed identity. It says, well, if I put since I'm an absolute me at a gut level, I put an absolute effort and concentration into verifying that, confirming it, or coping with the failure to find it. And then you'll fail to find it, they say, but they're always open-minded. Dalai Lama, just send them a telegram. I found my real self. I'm fixed, and I'm not connected to anything. And see how they react. But what will happen is there's a slow erosion of the sense of the absolute identity around which everything is wound, and it sort of melts out, and that you feel it, and you'll have moments of release. And then there's a brilliant thing. I had one Lama who explained it so well. There's a brilliant thing where when you see through that fixed thing that you thought was the solid you, it's been the notion of it has been entwining your relative you, which is the one that's looking. Of course, it's a process. Meditating is a process. It's been entwined around that so all along, or it's been entwined around it, even though it isn't there. Imagining it has been there. When it disappears, it takes the relative self with it, and you have a relative experience of being absolute space. Wow. And you disappear.
That's like Maha-Ati or something like that?
Yeah, well, no, that isn't. That Maha-Ati, on the way to Maha-Ati, you have such an experience. But Maha-Ati is where you're there with all the differentiated things, and that's infinite space simultaneously. Only. So therefore, there's compassion. You see, if you misinterpret the Maha-space experience as that's the real thing, and this is all a bunch of shit, then you'll be stuck in that, and you won't have true compassion. Oh, I'm sorry. I said a bad word.
No, you're good.
You won't have true compassion. You won't have true compassion in the relative world. Are we still on, or we stopped?
You are good.
What happened? Hello.
Are we still on?
Are we still there?
No, you're good. You're still there.
Oh, good. So this is the thing. This guy is inspiring, the man of peace. And you're going to love it. You can get it on your phone, actually, from Amazon, as an e-book. And an e-book that works on a phone, like Comixology software that they have. And Although the big double-page spreads are hard to see on that version. But then there's the paperback and the hardback, and you can get it. And so anyway, that's the non-dual thing where wisdom is compassion. Where the Maha'ati, the highest thing in Tibetan, or in Chan, or in Zen, or in good idea. In Chan or Zen, the Maha'ati thing is when because at first, when you have that first experience of everything seeming to disappear, then the danger is that the last bastion of the absolutist habit pattern, absolutizing some fixed thing for security, will attach itself to that absolute space. You see, that seeming absolute space. Yeah. But clearly it isn't absolute, because there was a boundary, there was a moment in time where you entered it, and then it's also apart from everything, all the differentiated things, so that makes it relational. That's a boundary, and some other things are not there, you see. Even though it feels like it's everything, and everything is just space, that's the point. It feels like that, but then there's an oscillation. Then the person goes back into what's called dreamlike or illusion-like aftermath samadhi, or you could call it magical aftermath samadhi, which is the samadhi of relating.
Samadhi is a state of meditation.
Yeah, state of concentrated way. Okay. You can be in samadhi without sitting in meditation. You can be in samadhi. It just means mental concentration.
And I don't know if I can.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm sure you can. You do. We all do, and to some extent.
Yeah.
And so there's an oscillation, and then you get back, and then you sort of re-solidify everything, because that habit is so instinctual and deep. And then you go back into meditate, and then you have a space experience again. And then but the key is ahead of time, the space experience is not the absolute. And because that's something I just go into, and it's apart from everybody else. And basically, we're in a vast infinite relativity, emptiness means. And everyone is our mother, and our lover, and our brother, and sister, and father, and child.
That's empathy, right? It's
total empathy of the whole. To be embracing a contradiction. And that is where you can bear being sensitive to the misguided suffering of beings, which they do need to have, if it's simultaneously vast space. So it has a magical and illusory quality. It's like you can bear the tragedy of, Oedipus or Macbeth or Hamlet and the terrible things that happen to everyone at the end where they all die, because it has a quality of unreality.
So would that apply to what's happening in the U.S. right now?
Yes. That applies to what's happening in Tibet or China. That's why you don't hate the evil doers, but you resist them. And you know that they don't have to always be an evildoer, because they're changeable, because it's a magical, illusory thing. But you don't get, in other words, you are fully committed to saving people from the suffering.
Right.
And you don't lock them into a sort of as if their suffering was inevitable. You know it can be fixed and changed.
And that's that word bodhisattva, right?
Yeah. Bodhisattva's Bodhisattva vows to do that. But I'm talking at the deep cognitive dissonance, embracing enlightenment mind level, where you're fully empathetic to the agony of the genocided people, native people here, Tibetans in China, whatever, all the people, Ethiopians, and whatever they are, different tribes in different places in Africa, where they're shoved together by ex-colonial, not quite post-colonial leftovers, like Shiites and Sunnis, and you're totally committed to that removal. But you have the ability to do something effective, because you don't get swept up in the hatred, the anger. You don't say they got to always be like that. You have a joy yourself. You can stay joyful. And you can stay.
And this guy is a pretty good example.
Exactly, and that means you can still be friendly with the bad guys.
So you don't hate whoever you think your enemy is. You don't hate that person.
That's right.
You don't hate Trump or Hillary or
Shantideva psychology, who's one of the Tibetan scientific psychology, proves that Jesus' statement and Buddha's statement of love your enemy is a practical, realistic statement. Why? Love means wish for the happiness of.
Yeah.
So your enemy is an enemy of you.
That's a great definition.
Your enemy is your enemy. That's not just the mainstay Buddhist definition. Your enemy is an enemy because he thinks you stand in the way of her or his happiness. You're blocking their happiness. If they were happy without hassling you, Why would they bother to hassle you? That's a pain. That's another pleasant behavior.
Right.
So wishing them happiness means getting rid of their enmity, because if they're really happy, they're not going to be your enemy.
Right.
And that's the best way. If you kill them or you harm them, then they're going to want revenge.
Well, that's the Lincoln quote. It says, I destroy my enemy when I make him my friend.
Yes.
Right.
That, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lincoln, by the way, I was going to make a big PR about Lincoln. I don't know if you know that Lincoln was our first Jewish president.
No.
Yes, there's scholarship about it.
Really?
His mother was Jewish. There's a whole thing.
My grandmother will be very happy to hear that.
That's right. Yeah. And he only quotes the Jewish Bible, the Old Testament.
Huh.
He never had a church he went to in Washington. His father was a Protestant and was mean to the mother. And he came from the southern Illinois, northern Kentucky area where this particular group of Jews who came to Jamestown and then fled into the interior survived. And they're called something, I forgot the name. But there's scholarship about it. Of course, the main redneck, historians, they'll never agree with that.
People are excited about that.
But if Bernie had won, or even was vice president, I was going to push that. Because that would be a new thing they'd make a thing about, the rednecks. I'm a redneck, but I mean the ones that I don't.
I'm literally a redneck.
I want them to think again,
Yeah.
So anyway, this is it. Thank you, Waylon. That's great. Is everybody there? So
lots of people are here.
What's that? There's still lots of people there?
Many people. Yeah, that's every second. So, hey, I have a practical question.
Yes.
Because many people in the U.S., and this is a little political, but you're not afraid of that.
No,
are a little troubled and depressed by this whole Paris Accord, us pulling out of it.
Right. Well, they should be. They should resist it.
So from the example of nonviolent resistance.
Yes.
How is that effective? How do we react? How do we resist with love?
We lovingly go and make sure that we register to vote.
Yeah.
And we make sure that many other people who were disbarred from voting, because, they never could have won those swing states if they didn't, every state which were won by 20, 30, 40, 80,000, 3 or 4 or 500,000 were disbarred their votes in various ways.
So what do we do?
ID laws, putting the voting machines in the wrong places, maybe not counting certain ones, even in the Republican states with the Republican secretaries of state. A lot of nonsense, gerrymandering. Yeah. There's a lot of ways. So lovingly, they can go out. We only have less than 50% of the electorate votes in this country because we didn't have a world war in this country that we know about. Mm-hmm. And, we sent people overseas, but we didn't have it on this land. European Union, most of those countries, 80% vote. That's why the Russians and, the Breitbart couldn't elect Marine Le Pen in France because a lot of people voted there. Right. And Sweden, my wife is Swedish, she tells me 90% vote. They have motor voter. They have to vote. Wow. In Germany, they vote.
What is a motor voter?
But, here, there was a motor voter law which they don't observe.
Oh, where they have to register.
Yeah, when you get your driver's license, you automatically register.
Right.
And that they wouldn't implement that in the South, and then they arrest all the blacks that they can, especially males, and then they disenfranchise them and they return to Jim Crow. And so you lovingly go out, nonviolently like Martin Luther King did, and you resist those things and you go to the bureaucracies. I mean, they did it. They already did it. The Pussy Hat March was terrific, and everybody went there. And we do these protests and resistances happily. Yeah. We don't allow ourselves to get angry. If we see anarchy type of people, with masks and things, breaking windows or harming police and getting reaction against us from police, we know those are agents provocateurs sent in there by the blue meanies. Mm. The right people, that we can't have a violent revolution. Then the guys who win that will be bad, like Lenin and these people. The bad. When they win by violence, then they're more violent. We have to be all nonviolent. That's the way it is.
But a lot of people would say, Tibet's not free. Right?
I know.
Gandhi needed. There was other pressures. Malcolm X was effective alongside of Martin Luther King Jr.
And they all got shot. And people will say that. But then my answer to them is, how are they doing in Afghanistan? Right. With a lot of violence. Right. How is it working? Right. They've been shooting each other for so long, and once they all get unleashed on violence, it becomes unstoppable. Yeah. How are they doing in Israel? Well, they have fun in Tel Aviv, but they occasionally get blown up in the thing, and they have this big wall, and they're building a wall of hatred around themselves that is like billions of people thick, and that's wrong, and they shouldn't do that. and they're supposed to be a light unto the nations, and they can be. They have a peace movement, but the peace movement is completely locked up inside it. The Netanyahu type of thing, they won't allow them to function.
So we can be activists for women's rights, for equal rights, for gay rights, without anger. We can be an activist against Trump without objectifying him as a evil person.
And the measuring stick, the litmus stick, the thermometer about whether we're doing it the right way or not is, are we enjoying it? Are we happy? Are we, hey, Donald, come on, what's happening, man? You guys beating me here. I don't like that, But even that, we don't, like Gandhi used to talk to the cops when they would whack him and his people with the sticks. He would say, you guys are following the orders of some stupid people who, they don't care about you. And I love that. I gave a talk to Occupy in Wall Street, and which was, don't hate those people up in the building there who are looking frightened because you're down here. They're actually totally freaked out too in a different way. And you are. You don't have a job. They have too much of a job, and they're all stressed out, and their liver is collapsing on them, having so-called autoimmune diseases, and so on. I said, so you protest. It's an imbalance, and it's a bad way of living, but don't hate them. And what I loved is they already know that. You see, everybody knows everything. You're not giving big news to them. They had a sign that they walked around showing to all the cops standing around. At the time I was there, they hadn't closed them down yet. And the sign said, you guys are one layoff away from being over on this side of the sign.
And the women's march,
the cops didn't mind that.
No, it's funny. And you see that kindness and humor with cops or with, and there's a moment of space, of relaxation.
Absolutely. Allen Ginsberg told me that when he was yippieing and this and that at the Chicago Democratic
He was an amazing activist for people who don't remember.
He was. But he told me that they recognized certain people came in because of the way they had shined shoes and they had like gumshoe shoes. And they came in and started calling cops pigs and things. And they joined the protest, which was peaceful and cheerful and happy. And then they started aggravating the cops, and the cops started beating people up. And they recognized them as Jean Provocateur. He told me that. I mean, I wasn't there. I was watching it actually on TV from Martha's Vineyard.
Are you talking about 1968 or
something? 68. And I was in agony watching it. It was so sad, that was when Nixon took over, basically. And Nixon had gone ahead of that, and he had made a deal with the South Vietnamese not to join the Geneva Peace Accords that Johnson was trying to do so Humphrey would have a chance. He wanted, they could have stopped the Vietnam War before the election, and then Nixon wouldn't have got in. So, they betrayed. That's treason, right? But they have been doing that routinely. Because they're the minority who just want more tax cuts for the rich, who are now in power. They can never win a popular election if people have real information and are really allowed to vote, and if many of them do vote. And they're not disenfranchised or disenchanted. Worse than that, they're disenchanted from voting. For example, in 50 years ago maybe, before 1944, when Henry Wallace was cheated out of the vice presidency by some corporate Democrats. He should have been the vice president, not Truman. He had been the 3 times D50R's vice president. He was a big labor guy. He was probably wouldn't have dropped the A-bomb and so on. He would have dropped it in the bay in front of Tokyo instead.
To demonstrate.
Yeah, to show what it is. And frighten them, and then they'd quit, But instead of on the ladies in kimonos.
Let alone doing it twice.
So, but anyway, never mind that. But the point is, otherwise, whoever earns the second largest amount of votes in primaries automatically is the vice president. And then you have an unstoppable coalition, even though you don't agree completely with each other. This nonsense of where Tim and his 10 million followers are told that they've been leveled to naughty now and go off somewhere. And we love you and you have to vote for us, right? But we don't have to do anything for you. That's really stupid. And that cost us big.
So like Bernie and Hillary would have been united.
Well, they might have disagreed about things, but they would work together for the greater good. And they both should have. And both sides are to blame for that.
And they tried, but the followers didn't particularly.
Well, no, that's what people always say, it's the Lama's followers who are bad. But, they didn't themselves really make the meeting. They didn't bump foreheads. They didn't hug to the right degree, let's say. And because it's a system, the system discourages that because the system is absorbed and obsessed with money. And so anybody who offends anybody with money is is verboten and anathema.
So I have one final question.
Yes. It's so nice to see all the people. Yes.
Yeah, I know. It's cool. And there's lots of questions and comments.
Yes.
If people want to jump in or say where you're from, here's one if you want to hear it.
Okay,
From
sure.
Sarah, I've been practicing for 5 years, different lineages, including Shambhala, and disagree with something. We've been talking for a while. So the more one becomes...
That's a very good question. The more you're connected to things, when you come back to doing your Shambhala meditations, the more your bliss is crushed. That's really great. I love that you say that. That's
the world is hell. The only thing one can do is live a life of service and help one person, animal, plant at a time. But bliss, joy are a selfish illusion.
Oh, well, okay. If you want to make that a rule for yourself, good luck, is all I can say.
Jolly good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Right.
But the point is, if you want to help some person, believe me, you examine your own behavior, interacting in life, and when you are happy, you're more effective in helping whoever it is. When you feel cheerful, there's even a commercial like that. It shows that everybody knows that in there intuitively. The Zoloft commercial, have you ever seen that?
I haven't.
There's for Zoloft, which is one of those mood-altering things. You know,
I don't know if the Zoloft commercial will convince her, but...
No, well, but my point is to be convinced, she has to look at her own behavior and realize if she's in a really bad mood, has a headache, and feels really crappy, and she's doing some martyrish service somewhere anyway, she's not going to be doing it nicely, and the people she's serving are going to feel, oh, gee whiz, you should take a break, you know, I hate to bother you.
I love that.
They're going to feel disrespected because she's not taking care of herself. And so she knows herself with her friends, with her society, if she really looks at it. When she's feeling a little bliss, even if it's getting crushed a little bit by some irritation, but the more she feels that, the better able she is to help effectively.
So
the more tactful she is.
You can share your joy.
Yeah. And you know, and maybe it dribbles away with meeting the injustice and the torture and the horror. But then you go and build it up again if you have to. But of course, the ultimate is where you learn to remain blissful. And actually, it's not a selfish illusion because if you're selfish, you won't feel bliss anyway. You'll judge what you're feeling and say, this sucks and I don't like it, it's not good enough. So
that's not true bliss if you're selfish.
If when you're really feeling bliss, you just want to be helpful to others.
Can I share a quote from
please do.
My parents' teacher, Trump Rinpoche?
Yes.
He would say, it's not enough to do good for the world and lose. That's the martyr thing.
Oh, yes, that's right.
We have to do good for the world and win.
Oh, that's great for you.
We have to celebrate it.
That's good.
And then Pema Chodron has that quote where she says, and it kind of connects with Sarah, we can feel the sadness and pain of the world. Yeah. And at the same time, the vision and brilliance of our basic goodness.
That's right.
And if you do both at the same time, then you can be fully present.
That's whatever degree you can do that, you're enlightened. Yeah. As I long ago used to say, Buddha is as Buddha does. And then Buddha does. Then Buddha is what they does. Right. So therefore, you in your service and your thing, even though you're not doing a service to yourself by ruling out for yourself that somehow if you feel a little happy you're being selfish, you might drop that slogan or might rethink it and think critically about it. But, if when you're doing service for others, then this makes you happy.
I love that.
And you shouldn't shrink away from that. For example, the psychologists have a big debate in Western psychology. There's no true altruism because there's some sort of self-interest in being altruistic because people get a kick out of it and they feel proud of themselves. So therefore, there's no true altruism. But that's false. Yeah. Why shouldn't altruism have an enlightened self-interest in it? Yeah. It actually empowers the altruism. Yeah. Because the key point is you're not doing it for yourself. If you're doing it for yourself, it's not altruism, yes. But if you by experience maybe know that when you stop thinking about yourself and just do it for the other, then you feel better so that there is an enlightened there's a payoff of enlightened self-interest. Why should that be a problem in life? Yeah. It could be a problem in absolute categories of psychology, but it's not a problem in life.
No, it's great.
Yeah, it's cool. It's
great.
It's
convenient.
Yeah.
If you help others, you cheer up.
There's a happy elephant around here.
That's right. There's this great, Yvon Chouinard, right?
What?
Yvon Chouinard, founder of Patagonia.
No, I don't.
The company Patagonia.
That thing, yeah.
He says...
Oh, yes, right.
If you're selfish, you should be an environmentalist because that'll help you continue to make money and be healthy and be happy and have your children be happy. And so if you want to be truly selfish, the most selfish thing to do is be an environmentalist.
That's very good. Yeah. And I love that, for example, I once was with a visiting. I wasn't a member, but by some happenstance, I was in a kind of meeting of a big environmentalist group, which I won't say what it was.
Okay.
And they were at that time engaged in this thing where the tree hugger and the lady living in the tree, the wonderful butterfly lady, and they were against the logging industry and the loggers in somewhere, I think Oregon or one of those areas in the Northwest. And it was a real bad thing. And those loggers, you're taking the food out of the mouths of my children. And they know it's like a bad thing. Yeah. So I said, it's great that you guys are stopping those loggers and you're protesting them and then legally also doing things. And that's all great. Yeah. And you should continue. I'm not saying for 1 minute you should diminish doing that. However, why hasn't someone, or why don't you go to the high school and go to Austria and find, or anywhere, I mean, wherever there's someone who's like a fine furniture making, woodworking master. Okay. Hire them with a good salary. Bring them to the high school where the children of the loggers are. Teach them in shop, not just how to like make a weird doily to go and work in a machine shop, but although that could be good for some, but how to make a beautiful bureau, a magnificent tailor with inlay, a fantastic piece of carpentry with wood. Right. Adding value to the tree that's out there that the dad wants to cut down. Right. And then, instead of letting some company hire the dad to cut them all down, ship them off to China and Japan, and then have no more trees, and then there's nothing to help, And then you're in a horrible environment where the water goes bad and polluted, and it's terrible. Yeah. And no oxygen. And so, at the same time as you're preventing them from destroying their own environment, by protesting and opposing, you do something for their community that uses what resources they have. There are people who have wood in their blood, but they're used to just logs. And then you teach them how to make fantastic stuff out of the logs, or at least the younger generation, and then they begin to become Oregon furniture becomes like, they buy it in Paris. Yeah. Why don't you try that? Oh, no, we couldn't possibly. Oh, that's too complicated. Oh, no. And they wouldn't even think about it.
That's what they do successfully when it works in the rainforest. They teach people how to make money off of the rainforest, preserving it instead of just
that's what environmentalists have to do. Yeah. Of course, there's an arm that will protest and oppose and march and put their body in. I admire them and I worship them as heroes. Yeah. But people with funding people who raise funds and do things, they should also be clever. Yeah. And they'll do that if they feel cheerful. Yeah. That's the point. They might never think it. It's all hopeless. This is the key. I know someone who's in another big environmental group told me that they went to one meeting, they were one of the big meetings, and then they had a bunch of scientists. And then basically they all came out of that meeting feeling despair. Mm. And I guess the idea was that hopes for give more funds to do protest. But she said, and I thought, well, people who basically think they're going to lose, although they're going through the motions, are they really going to be effective? Mm-hmm. I don't think so. Mm-hmm. They've given up. Yeah. So there shouldn't be just, yes, the scientists should say how that, but then there should also be solutions.
And that comes back to what you said in the beginning, the relative, if you feel like you can dance or change reality a little bit.
Yeah, if you realize that things are not set in stone, right. Even stones are not set in stone. Yeah. Well said. Then we're going to have, that sand is becoming a scarcity. Yep. So there's going to be solar energy powered stone crushing factories so we can have beaches at this rate.
Well, there's an amazing article.
We shouldn't do it in fossil fuel, of course. But
there's an article in the New Yorker where they're stealing, all the sand from the Ganges. They're killing the river because the river creates the sand.
Oh, really? That must be that wonderful environmental writer. I haven't read that article.
Yeah, I think
is that a recent one? I haven't seen it
maybe
yet.
2 or 3 weeks ago, but it's amazing. You can Google it.
Okay, I'll Google it.
We could put in the comments.
Okay, great. Please do. Well, I'm so sorry that you're anti. Don't be. I know you're not really anti-happiness, and it was a great question and a good argument. So I appreciate it, and I hope I didn't offend you.
Yeah.
Offend anybody.
No offense. You're too.
My friend Matthew Ricard, a great meditator. He has a lot of problems with his French colleague. He wrote a book this thick on happiness. I love that guy, and in French, on la félicité, sur la félicité, and because the French are like, I want my suffering. What do you mean? Don't take my gold bars away from me, on my left bank, I want my suffering. Because, of course, these are the existentialists who don't believe in future life.
Right.
So they think that they have automatically out of suffering by just dying, and then they go to nothingness, and therefore there's no more problem. But that's a delusion. That is a real delusion.
There's a beautiful quote. It's by Conan O'Brien or Stephen Colbert or someone, and they say, being cynical is not cool.
Oh, good.
It's incredibly powerful to care.
Yes.
And to not give up hope.
It's more fun, too.
Well, we've been over an hour. I thank you so much.
Thank you,
I'm happy to keep going for 5 hours.
Okay.
You're a delight. You're so delightful. You're a good example of a Buddhist because you're cheerful and troublemaking, and you have a lot of exertion. Where do you get all your energy from?
I'm running out. No, I get it from my wife.
Yeah.
I get my energy from my kids and grandkids and wife. On politics, especially I have a great-granddaughter.
Yeah.
And I'm not even a good dad, and I'm a good granddad or anything. I'm not that good because I'm always translating ancient texts and things, and I'm a Buddhaholic. My wife calls me a Buddhaholic.
Uh-huh.
But I do get energy from them because I can't take it that the self-centered culture where they think that après moi le déluge, because I only live this one life and I'm a big, brave, modern materialist. Right. And therefore I don't mind wrecking the planet because I won't be here, like George W. Bush said.
Right.
I can't take it that they're wrecking that beautiful flowers and trees and grass and rivers and air and mountains and glaciers and things for my great-grandchildren. I don't feel right about my old age sitting around just enjoying myself translating books.
Yeah.
And when those grandkids, what are they here for? They bravely came to the planet in this difficult time. I think most of these younger people are like, or they call them omegas, or they call them purples, or they call them something there. They are all bodhisattvas, I think. Really. Yeah. They're wonderful.
They're brave
and
heroes.
We can't let them down by at least not trying.
Love that.
And not giving in to despair. That's a big thing Dalai Lama says. Never give in to despair. Don't ever give up.
All right, well, this looks very fun to read and to
Please get the book.
Look at. It's very accessible and fun and beautifully.
Yes, and Tibet House US is the publisher. And you are helping by buying the book.
I mean, just look at this.
You are, that's kind of when the Dalai Lama is kind of sad.
It's all backward for me.
It's in the early 60s.
Yeah.
And terrible Holocaust going on in Tibet at that time.
Yeah.
And he has to rebuild the whole community in exile.
Why am I backward? There we go.
Each chapter has a Tibetan charm box, cover.
Yes, beautiful.
There are little fragments from the scenes of that chapter.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you, and well done to the artists. The graphic artist Steve Buccellato.
Okay.
He has a wonderful studio in Los Angeles. He's really did a great job, and his artists, they're all listed there on the page.
Well, anything we can do to support this? Hopefully, we put the link to the book. But it's Man of Peace by Mr. Robert Thurman, Bob Thurman,
William Myers, Michael Burbank, and me.
Yeah, a lot of talented people, and it's supporting Tibet House, right?
Yes. Thank you.
There you go. Awesome. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. And thank all of you.
Let's
I really enjoyed it.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And thank you for all your questions. Sorry we didn't get to many of them.
Well, if there's any way you can send them to our, I have a website too. You can send me any question or strong idea that you have or condemn anything wrong that I did. Yeah. And I'll try to respond. I'll try not to be grumpy. My wife says I'm not very good at receiving criticism. I get grumpy right away, and that's bad. And so it would give me a good challenge to try to be good.
She sounds like a good friend and a good wife.
She is. Yeah. She is. She's my guru, actually.
There you
go. In one sense, too.
Yeah. That's what it takes to have a good relationship.
It does.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Last time I saw you.
Tibetan ways.
What's that?
Big forehead. That's the Tibetan.
Thank you. I did that with Reb Zalman one time when we did it.
Oh, he always did that. Yeah. I loved him. He was a great friend of my original teacher, the Mongolian Geshe Wangyal.
Wow.
In New Jersey. He used to come from Philly.
Wow.
To New Jersey in the 50s and early 60s. He knew Geshe Wangyal before I did.
Wow.
And I saw him there a bunch of times. He would bring people over from his shul, He would bring them over from Philadelphia.
He was delightful.
Meet my old Mongolian guy. Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
Totally great.
And the last time I saw you, I think, was we hosted you at the Boulder Theater, which is our big historic theater.
Oh, I'd love to come and do that again anytime.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Good.